Today on ZZZ Made Easy, things are heating up with Soldier 11. This video will cover Soldier 11's main mechanics, how you can build her, and some teams you can go into. As of version 2.5, Soldier 11 has received a major Potential Vision Rework, which this guide will cover. Soldier 11 is an S-Rank fire attack agent from Opal Squad. She's a standard S-Rank you can get randomly, and a simple DPS for new players. Soldier 11 relies on timing her basic attacks to infuse them with fire damage, and you want to stay on beat to keep the pressure on. As an on-field agent, getting interrupted was a major issue for completing Soldier 11's basic attack combo. The 2.5 rework allows Soldier 11 to maintain her place in the combo, and has introduced a new block counter to clash with foes head-on. It's also given Soldier 11 more tools for stun phases, as well as some huge optimizations to her basic attack chaining. Besides just dealing more damage, Soldier 11 is a ton of fun to play with more room for some spicy skill expression. The original core of Soldier 11's kit is still the same as before, so let's cover all her original mechanics before diving into the new stuff. Soldier 11 has a 4-part basic attack string which does physical damage. You do not want to see any physical damage on these attacks. Soldier 11's main gameplay gimmick requires you to press basic attack at a certain time after each individual move. This triggers fire suppression, which causes the next basic attack to deal fire damage. It also has a higher damage multiplier. A lot of Soldier 11's damage is tied to her fire suppression 4th basic attack, so completing the full combo as many times as possible is our goal. Unfortunately, none of Soldier 11's basic attacks have any iframes, and if you need to dodge an enemy attack, then Soldier 11 would start her combo over from the beginning. The rework addresses this issue, but we'll get to that in a bit. There are many tips for getting fire suppression timing down, but realistically you just have to hit the training room and practice. My best tip for fire suppression is to press basic attack a split second after the current animation ends, which is when Soldier 11 poses. Soldier 11's first 2 basic attacks have shorter animations, while her 3rd and 4th have longer ones. Starting out, you can't trigger fire suppression immediately for the first basic, but the 4th basic loops back around into the first basic. If you time it right, you can get fire suppression for that move and keep the basic attack chain going. You're going to want to get Soldier 11's fire suppression timing down for her core passive. When triggering fire suppression during a basic attack or dash attack, increase that move's damage by 70%. After a year and a half of ever-increasing core passive descriptions, a single sentence is nice to see. There is not a lot more to elaborate for this passive. If you're not triggering fire suppression, you're losing a lot of bonus damage. Luckily, Soldier 11 has 3 ways to get guaranteed fire suppression triggers. First, you can use her EX special. This costs 80 energy and is a simple forward swipe. The second is the chain attack. This is an uppercut flip. The third is Soldier 11's ultimate, essentially just a higher damage, fancier version of the chain attack. After using any of these moves, Soldier 11 stores 8 guaranteed fire suppression triggers. This means Soldier 11's basic attacks or dash attacks always deal fire damage, plus you activate the core passive. There is no specific timing needed for the next 8 slashes. There is also no visual cue for this, so you have to keep track mentally. Despite no stack counter, Soldier 11 has a 4-part basic attack string, so you can do 2 full combos to use up the 8 guaranteed triggers. Timing Soldier 11's basic attacks and using the guaranteed fire suppression triggers after EX special, chain attack, and ultimate are the 2 mechanics of the original base kit. Soldier 11 wants to always be dealing fire damage. For Soldier 11's additional ability, she needs a fire agent or Opal Squad member. To be technical, Soldier 11's faction condition includes any new Eridu Defense Force member. Currently, this is to include Soldier Zero Ambi's Silver Squad. As for the effect, Soldier 11 deals 10% more fire damage. Against stunned foes, this bonus is increased by 22.5%. In other words, against stunned foes, Soldier 11 gets 32.5% bonus fire damage. Don't ask me why it's such a specific number. To keep things simple, let's just call it 30% bonus fire damage. As a general rule for ZZZ damage calculation, it's important to understand that percent damage buffs are usually the same multiplier. This means Soldier 11's 70% damage core passive and the 10% fire damage from the additional ability get added together to become 80%. Against stunned foes, Soldier 11 basically gets 100% bonus damage. However, this only applies to the fire suppression, basic attacks, and dash attacks. Soldier 11's other fire damage moves like her EX special, chain attack, or ultimate will only benefit from the additional ability. Before the rework, we would be like 80% done with the move section for Soldier 11. Let's continue with all the new features added since version 2.5. Reworked agents have new awakened potential passives which you can unlock with daily performances. For Soldier 11, her new passive is tied to her additional ability. As long as you meet the team member conditions, Soldier 11 can get a free 48% crit damage at potential 6. The awakened potential passives are generally just simple stat buffs. 48% crit damage is like having an extra partition for drive disc, and this will allow Soldier 11 to focus on getting more bonus crit rate. Soldier 11's dodge counter is a snappy overhead slash. To solve the issue of getting interrupted, the dodge counter now keeps track of Soldier 11's place in her basic attack combo. If you press basic attack after, she will continue where she left off. This mechanic has some interesting quirks. I'm not sure if it's intended, but the basic attack hit count is kept track of until Soldier 11 finishes the entire ending animation of her attacks. What I mean is that after I do the first basic, as long as I dodge counter before Soldier 11 sheaths her sword and goes back to idling, then she will continue to the second basic after. This only benefits us, so I'm not going to question it. Next, as long as you perfect dodge the first hit, Soldier 11 keeps track of the combo for 5 seconds. Let's say you finish the third basic attack, then perfect dodge. Even if you get hit a few times after this, that's okay. As long as you can do another perfect dodge into dodge counter within 5 seconds, Soldier 11 will still continue on to her fourth basic attack. Additionally, you can dodge mid-animation and Soldier 11 will start the same move from the beginning after the dodge counter. Despite these changes, you still need to press basic attack at a specific time to get the fire suppression triggers. You need to wait for Soldier 11 to pose after her dodge counter with her front side sort of facing the camera, or you can look for her left foot to be planted far back. Press the button a split second after this to keep the fire suppressions going. For new moves, Soldier 11 can hold basic attack to begin fire charge. She technically isn't charging anything, but you can move around in this state. When you release the button, Soldier 11 would do fire assault. If Fire Assault clashes with an enemy attack, you can trigger a block counter. This will nullify the damage and grant Soldier 11 3 guaranteed fire suppression triggers. This move then chains into Soldier 11's third basic attack. Instead of charging for long periods of time, if you start the fire charge animation as an attack hits Soldier 11, then she will also trigger the block counter. This is a bit more reactive, and the entire block counter mechanic serves as a way to keep staying aggressive. There is a slight downside to doing the block counter instead of a normal dodge counter. Soldier 11 will not be able to trigger effects like 4-piece woodpecker electro stacks or Starlight Engine, which do require dodge counter specifically, something to keep in mind. One of the big benefits of the new block counter is getting the 3 fire suppression triggers. That's because the rework has added new mechanics. When Soldier 11 has guaranteed fire suppression, she can press basic attack as the current move ends to transition to the next move faster. This is a pretty big deal because instead of just spamming the button, you're now rewarded for keeping up with Soldier 11's timing mechanics. The one small catch is that the timing is slightly different. Again, I can only suggest spending time in the training room, but instead of pressing basic attack a split second after the animation ends, you now want to press the button a split second before the animation ends. You know you got the timing when you see the red flash and you hear the new sound effect. Now, if you mess up, it's okay, because you're not losing damage or anything. You still have guaranteed fire suppression. This new mechanic is just rewarding you with good timing with faster animations. Now, the other new effect when you have guaranteed fire suppression is that Soldier 11 unlocks a brand new 5th basic attack. This move does even more damage than the 4th basic, so doing it as much as possible is our new goal. If you remember, the block counter grants 3 fire suppression and changes into the 3rd basic attack. That allows Soldier 11 to do block counter into 3rd, 4th, and 5th basic to use up the 3 fire suppressions. While the dodge counter is still useful, this is Soldier 11's new on-field combo when you don't have guaranteed fire suppression from elsewhere. Do note that if you do multiple block counters, then you are able to store up to 8 fire suppression triggers, same as using EX Special Chain Attacker Ultimate. Speaking of EX Special, it now chains directly into Soldier 11's 4th basic attack. This lets you get to the new 5th basic, and with guaranteed fire suppression, Soldier 11 actually chains back into her 3rd basic instead of starting her combo over. This is a major quality of life change. Since EX Special grants 8 fire suppressions, there's a new extended combo we can do. EX Special into 4th and 5th basic, keep going to chain into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th basic, do 3rd, 4th, 5th basic again to expend all 8 guaranteed fire suppression triggers. Another big change pertains to Soldier 11's chain attack and ultimate. After using either of these moves, Soldier 11 directly chains into her 4th basic. The next 5th basic is then enhanced. Instead of needing to do multiple basic attacks to use up all your guaranteed fire suppression triggers, the enhanced 5th basic compresses all remaining uses into one big slash. Chain Attacker Ultimate grants 8 fire suppression. Since we used one trigger for the 4th basic, Soldier 11 expends 7 fire suppressions all in one go. Damage-wise, the enhanced 5th basic does more than double the damage of a single 5th basic attack. This update improves Soldier 11's stun phase burst potential a ton. Soldier 11 has one more mechanic to keep up the assault. After EX Special Chain Attacker Ultimate, Soldier 11 goes into the alert stance. I don't believe this has a timer, so the next time Soldier 11 gets hit while doing her basic attacks, she will automatically trigger a block counter. This will not grant 3 fire suppressions like the manual block counter, but Soldier 11 will continue her base attack combo from where she was interrupted. Alert Stance is basically just a get out of jail free card that you don't have to use, but it's a real nice fallback when things get a bit hectic. Let's review. With the rework, Soldier 11 is still focused on timing her fire suppression basic attacks, but has received multiple quality of life updates to maintain her combo so she can access her higher damage moves. Guaranteed fire suppressions now serve a greater purpose with faster animations to reward good timing, and it unlocks Soldier 11's new 5th basic attack. Doing the new block counter gives a faster path to the 5th basic, and EX Special's 8 fire suppression triggers can be looped so you can do 3 sets of the 4th and 5th basic attacks. These on-foot changes are fantastic, plus with chain attacks and ultimates enhancing the 5th basic, Soldier 11 has some real good burst potential. The new fire suppression mechanics are all fantastic, but there are a few things to keep in mind. First off, if you start an attack, then dodge or trigger the auto block counter mid-animation, that doesn't give you back an extra fire suppression when you continue after. Let's say you were in the middle of the 5th basic attack and this was your last fire suppression trigger. If Soldier 11 dodge counters, she won't do another 5th basic afterwards because she has no more guaranteed fire suppression, which means the 5th basic is no longer unlocked. The way to avoid this is to simply do a manual block counter to regain 3 more fire suppressions. And notice the block counter does have a pretty decent stagger capability, but it doesn't work every time. If you need to stay safe against a really heavy onslaught of attacks, Soldier 11 can chain her dodge counter into a block counter directly. Hold basic attack during the dodge counter animation. Either the fire charge startup will trigger the block counter immediately, or you can release the button if an attack is coming slightly later. While you can chain block counters back to back, there is a window where Soldier 11 can get hit. If you alternate the dodge counter and the block counter, then you get a little more iframe safety. Let's talk more about the stun phase with Soldier 11's new moves. Be careful getting stuns when there are multiple enemies on the field. Alert Stance can auto block an attack from the side that continues Soldier 11's 4th or 5th basic. However, if you start the enhanced 5th basic, then trigger the auto block counter, then Soldier 11 will waste all her fire suppression stacks and lose the 5th basic after. This is kind of a big flaw. Essentially, you must use Alert Stance's auto block during the 4th basic, or you need to dodge counter before continuing to the 5th basic attack. If you get interrupted at all during the 5th basic animation, then you get kinda screwed. Unfortunately, Soldier 11 is still not the best at dealing with multiple enemies. For some good news, with guaranteed fire suppression triggers, Soldier 11's 4th basic attack no longer is a heavy attack. In other words, it doesn't trigger a stun/chain attack sequence. That property is now shifted onto the 5th basic, but again, only when you have guaranteed fire suppression. I'm not sure if this is the first time an agent's move has lost its heavy attack status, but I don't know of any others. This is beneficial to us though, since we want Soldier 11 to always do her 5th basic anyway. No need for any manual chain attack skipping. Generally speaking, you want Soldier 11 to be going last in your chain attack sequence because it directly does her 4th basic after. If Soldier 11 isn't last, then she has to swap back in and build her way all the way up to the 5th basic, and that would diminish how many fire suppressions she's consuming, plus it takes a whole lot longer. Now, for big bosses, Soldier 11 has a spicy new stun phase DPS combo. She gets enhanced 5th basic after every single chain attack, so you can do a double chain attack sequence. Get the stun with someone else, then send Soldier 11 in first. Cancel the 2nd chain attack prompt after, and then press basic attack twice to do the 4th and enhanced 5th basic. We need to switch off Soldier 11 before the 5th basic lands, since that is now her heavy attack. Luckily, the move has a short wind up, which gives us a nice opening. Swap out and get the 3rd chain attack prompt after Soldier 11 lands her damage. You can then send Soldier 11 in a 2nd time to do 4th plus enhanced 5th basic. After this, you can use ultimate and do a 3rd round of 4th plus enhanced 5th basic. If you still have time and energy, you can use EX Special after and continue with the extended basic attack combos. For shorter stun phases, you could just do 1 chain attack. Soldier 11's ultimate does a lot of damage, so try to get it in before this stun ends. Before we move on, I do want to discuss Soldier 11's area effect and grouping potential, or lack thereof. As mentioned earlier, Soldier 11 still struggles with multiple mobs, whether it's a lot of small mobs or the double elite enemies in like sheer defense. The chain attack and new enhanced 5th basic attack are almost entirely vertical moves, meaning you rarely hit multiple foes, and getting interrupted during the enhanced 5th basic is a pretty big deal. Now, you can use the Fire Assault Slash to kind of push foes in a direction while also block countering, but they really did not focus on improving Soldier 11's area effect. The dodge counter changes, the new block counter, and alert stance can all help Soldier 11 avoid damage when enemies are on her flank. As for actually dealing damage to those multiple foes though, try your best to group them or just focus them down individually. When it comes to builds, Soldier 11 gets a lot of percent damage from her passives, plus an entire drive disc worth of crit damage at potential 6. Leveling her core passive does give some crit rate, but we'll definitely need to find more sources of that. For W engine, Soldier 11's signature is the Brimstone, which is a standard S rank you may get randomly. Brimstone has a 30% attack main stat, and for every basic attack, dash attack, or dodge counter, you get 3.5% attack in combat for 8 seconds. This can stack up to 8 times, but each stack is calculated separately, so you may not get the full amount of stacks all the time. The Brimstone is a giant attack stick to pair with Soldier 11's innate percent bonus damage. It's a fine option if you have it, but you need to find crit rate elsewhere. For example, Evelyn's Heartstring Nocturne has a 24% crit rate main stat with 50% crit damage in combat. Soldier 11 can also use its passives where chain attacks and ultimates grant Fire Red Shred, but only for those moves. Now for other S rank options, still cushions the standard S rank with crit rate. Soldier 11 can use other attack, crit rate, or crit damage W engines, but you most likely won't get their full passives. C's signature, Core Exterminator, actually isn't bad. 39% crit rate, and if you land a basic attack plus EX special, then you get 20% defense shred on basic attacks and ultimate for 40 seconds. An EX special every 40 seconds is pretty doable. Now for A rank options, Sterling Engine is the mini Brimstone attack stick. There are some issues with the rework though. Since the block counter is not a dodge counter, you can't activate the effect. You're going to have to choose between the block counter's 3 fire suppressions or the dodge counter activating the attack buff. Now if you're just looking for more crit rate, then Mercado Desire most likely should return in the potential archive shop in the future. You can also just go with the Battle Pass Cannon Rotor if you have it. For other attack main stats, there is the Craftable Street Superstar, but this focuses on buffing ultimates after chain attacks, maybe an option with Jufu for Astra. Drive disc can get a little complicated, so let's just break down the basics. For main stats, Partition 4 will ideally be crit damage unless you have really low crit rate. For Partition 6, this should always be percent attack. Partition 5 has cases for the standard fire damage, percent attack, and pin ratio. Due to Soldier 11's core passive and addition ability piling on so much percent damage bonuses, you may not need a fire damage disc if you have other percent damage buffers such as lighter. If you have those, then you can maybe go with percent attack unless you're using an attack buffing support and using Brimstone. If you have percent damage and attack buffers, then pen ratio can now be great to cut through those high defense bosses. As for 4-piece sets, there are many choices. The Journalist On-Foot set is still Woodpecker Electro, 8% crit rate and in-combat attack for basic attacking, dodge countering, and using EX special. Unfortunately, the new block counter is not a dodge counter. Now, if you only plan to use Soldier 11 with fire allies and or fight fire-weak bosses, then Infernal Metal can be great. 10% fire damage and 28% crit rate for hitting burning enemies. If you're using Dial-In, Puffery Electro can work with the bonus ultimates. As for Dawn's Bloom, it's not the worst choice, but Soldier 11's core passive is a massive percent damage buff to her basic attacks. Dawn's Bloom only buffs basic attacks, where other sets can benefit basic attacks and other moves. If you're farming for the amazing Millet Lullaby set and you get good Dawn's Bloom disc, then it's an option if you're not really a hardcore disc farmer. Now for 2-piece sets, Charlie, Woodpecker, or Branch and Blade Song are great for more crit rate or crit damage. If you're using pen ratio, Partition 5, Arena, or you're just happy with your crit stats already, then 2-piece Puffery Electro can be a fine choice. If you have great substats for Infernal Metal or the 10% attack 2-piece sets, then those can work too. For teams, Soldier 11 wants to be the frontline DPS, so double support / buffer teams can allow her to concentrate on her fire suppression timings. With her new stun phase tactics though, I do think Soldier 11 really likes a stunner. Since she doesn't need to build any resources to get her enhanced 5th basics, you can use double stunner comps. Of course, the standard attack stun support team is fine too. Soldier 11 will want a fire or Obo Squad ally, so her team options are slightly limited, but there are still a variety of agents to work with. The premier fire stunner, Lighter, continues to shine. Fire damage buffs, Fire Red Shred, and 3-second stun time extension is perfect for Soldier 11's new stun phase burst combos. Astra is an excellent team attack buffer, and her quick assist can help Soldier 11 stick to the enemy when switching in. Instead of Astra, Lucy is our A-rank fire support attack buffer. Between Lucy and Lighter, you can activate Soldier 11's addition ability, and now your 3rd slot is open to whoever can fit in. For example, Zhao is generally an upgrade to Lucy, and she's ice, so Lighter can buff her damage too. Now if you want a double buffing team, then the free Zhao plus Lucy can work, albeit Soldier 11 already gets a lot of protect, especially if you're using Brimstone. I would suggest trying to diversify your buffs, or just add a stunner. For double stun teams, Lighter plus Fufu is fun since Soldier 11 gets the majority of the field time. Fufu buffs chain attacks and ultimates plus piles on more crit damage. If you want to use Inferno Metal, typically you're going to be using Soldier 11 against fire weak enemies and multiple fire agents. Lighter, Lucy, or Jufufu can mix and match for a full fire team. Now if you want to try double DPS, then Captain Magus and Orphe can assist with the off-field fire damage. Trigger is the off-field Obo Squad stunner, who can open up team comps to non-fire supports like Astra or Zhao. For other options, Dylan's a great Lighter replacement, but you now need to run a Fire or Obo Squad third ally. I recommend trying the Dylan plus Jufufu double stun team. It's like playing Hollow Zero with the ultimate gears thanks to Dylan's extra ultimates and then Fufu's decibel refunds. Kaleda is our standard S-Rank fire stunner, but she only buffs chain attacks, not general fire damage like Lighter. Hopefully she can get a fun rework in the future. Not listed, but Chingy increases the stun damage multiplier. She does require a bit more field time though. For a non-attack buffing agent, Rina opens up the full pen ratio build. The only issue with Rina is that she kinda wants M1 for the extended buff uptime. Now for alternate ways to play Soldier 11, you can use her with Seed. Seed can kinda work with anyone, although the rework does make Soldier 11 feel smoother to use since she can get to her higher damage moves faster. Since she fulfills the Obo Squad condition, your third ally can be non-fire agents like Dylan or Zhao. Regarding Yuzuha, she's another Lucy/attack buffer replacement. Yuzuha can help apply Fire Anomaly for more burn uptime if you plan to use Inferno Metal. Now if you're looking for another way to get bonus crit rate, then Ben's shield provides 16% crit rate when active. Defense agents are still kind of in a weird spot, but Ben does lean into the perfect assist plus days buildup while also being a fire agent. One more crit rate source is M6 Nicole. Nicole's short uptime on her defense shred is a little tougher to use for Soldier 11 though. Last, for the Lighter or Lucy teams, you're able to use other Sons of Caledon members. Caesar's shield and attack buffs are good. Poker's the A-rank off-field stun option. Bernice can ensure full burn uptime, but Soldier 11's Fire Anomaly will be taking damage away from Bernice, so it's a little awkward in practice. Let's talk about Soldier 11's Mindscapes. For M1, when Soldier 11 becomes the active agent in combat and she has less than 40 energy, then Soldier 11 will swap in with 80 energy. This effect can trigger once every 50 seconds. M1 grants Soldier 11 free energy to EX Special when switching back in. It's not the easiest to keep track of, but free energy is always good. For M2, when triggering fire suppressions, then Soldier 11's basic attack, dash attack, and dodge counter damage will increase by 3% up to 12 times for 15 seconds. Each of those stacks will be calculated independently. This should seem familiar because M2 is kind of like a variation of the Brimstone's effect. Instead of bonus attack, you get bonus damage, and it's triggered by fire suppression. M2 can give up to 36% bonus damage, but only for those moves listed. M4 states if fire suppression is triggered during the first, second, or third basic attack or dash attack, then Soldier 11 gains increased anti-interrupt level and 18% damage reduction during those moves. If she triggers fire suppression on the fourth basic attack, then Soldier 11 is invulnerable during that move now. M4 can let Soldier 11 push through weaker attacks, but the main draw is that the fourth basic gets iframes. This was a good effect before the rework, but not as important now. Still useful if you don't have guaranteed fire suppressions. For M6, when using EX Special, Chain Attack or Ultimate, gain 8 stacks of charge. When fire suppression is triggered, 1 stack of charge is consumed in exchange for ignoring 25% of the foe's fire resistance. Basically, the guaranteed fire suppression moves will come with bonus Fire Red Shred. More damage for doing what we're already doing sounds good to me. Some of these standard agents Mindscapes are not the best, but I would say Soldier 11's are okay. M2 and M6 are direct damage buffs to their fire suppression basic attacks, and M1 is just bonus energy throughout the fight. M4 isn't as useful post-rework, but we'll still take it. For the after party section, we'll cover Soldier 11's other moves in a more casual manner. Soldier 11 is able to block projectiles while sprinting. Soldier 11's dash attack isn't anything too special besides being able to receive fire suppression if you have guaranteed triggers. The dash attack just leads into the first basic attack, so this is one way to get regular fire suppression on the first basic. As usual, you need to wait for the dash attack animation to end, then press the button right after. Maybe it's a skill issue on my part, but I don't believe you can do the faster guaranteed fire suppressions from dash attack into first basic. Soldier 11's quick assist is the same animation as the dodge counter. It only chains into the first basic attack though, so unfortunately there's no real fancy shortcuts if you're swapping from off field. Soldier 11 will have the regular defensive assist. The follow-up will chain into her second basic attack, but I could not trigger fire suppression manually in this fashion. The regular special is a very basic slash, but it is a heavy attack. If you want to save EX Special when a stun starts, Soldier 11's Fire Assault Slash is a new heavy attack trigger. Either of these methods is way faster than just doing the full basic attack string. Last thing I want to mention is that Fire Charge can cancel a ton of animations, and not in the good kind of way. Except for the 4th basic attack, Soldier 11 can miss out on the last hits of all other basic attacks. Similar to dodging mid-animation, you do not get back the guaranteed fire suppression triggers if, say, you cancel the 5th basic midway. Now, the benefit of being able to cancel most animations is that so you can block counter incoming attacks at more opportunities. This is fine since you're going to get 3 fire suppression triggers if you succeed, plus you won't get hit obviously. In conclusion, Soldier 11's Potential Vision Rework is pretty amazing, especially for a standard S rank. The faster timings with guaranteed fire suppression add a new aspect to Soldier 11's original core gameplay, and the block counter is very satisfying. All the optimizations to maintain the basic attack combo are amazing, and the new 5th basic is great, especially the enhanced version. In most games, standard banner gotcha units are left in the dust fairly fast, especially DPS units. Soldier 11 still has some issues with multiple enemy scenarios, but she is definitely far better off than before. I won't say Soldier 11 is going to be replacing the limited S ranks like Evelyn or anything, but she's for sure a lot more fun to play if you need an on-field fire DPS. That's all I have to say for this video. Thank you for watching, have fun with Soldier 11, and I will see you in the next video.